Well, good day to all of you happy people out there. It is Nate and Heidi DeCoste, and we are doing a special edition family chat where we are looking to clarify and answer questions. We've been getting a lot of emails, a lot of conversations. We know a lot of conversations are happening with you guys, and we just want to bring clarity and do an informal kind of webcast family chat where we record it. You can watch it, and then hopefully we can answer some of your questions through this. And so Heidi and I are going to play off each other a little bit here and answer as many questions as we can preemptively. And so let's get to it. Is that anything you want to say to that, Heidi?
Yeah, no, that's great.
All right, let's do it. So the question that we're kind of getting a lot of is why the change? And so one thing that we want to bring up is simply that we're not taking away or adding. Um, the what we are calling co-op currently is going to just grow into something bigger and better as well. However, a lot of what we are still doing right now is still going to be in operation next year. And what essentially we're doing is kind of the next step that will allow us to help the most people. So what I don't want is for everyone to hear 2 days and freak out that they have to then do a 2 day co-op where they're selling their rights as homeschoolers away and they have to submit to a regular private school. That's not what we're looking to do. What we're looking to do is give families tools to homeschool and lead their family the best they can. But what would you say to that, Heidi, as far as the change and adding and taking away?
Yeah, just that our goal isn't to actually change really much at all, other than we actually are wanting to enhance. We're wanting to improve upon what we have already been doing for the last 2.5 years. We want to make it better. And so our goal is actually to just take what we've been doing and hopefully make it even a better product, something that families will actually get even more out of, that they'll come away going, wow, that's really actually benefiting my family a ton and is enhancing our schooling at home.
Yeah. And so that's the change. It's kind of what this is growing into versus going either stagnantly or going the opposite direction of reducing it. And so we want to continue where we feel the Lord is leading us in that, which comes back down to to this idea of a micro school. And what I really want to make sure we're all on the same page with is don't let the word school scare you. It is school one way or another, whether you're homeschooling using us as a co-op or you're or whatever. It's kind of the umbrella term. But what we're not looking to do is become a private institution that is a drop your kids off and check out mentality. Far from it. And we're going to get into parental roles in a second because we've had a lot of questions on that. But
Well, go
yeah,
ahead.
go for it.
Well, also it's just our vision, our goal is to actually create a product that can benefit kind of both sides of the spectrum of
Hmm.
homeschool.
Yeah.
So we have the homeschoolers that maybe the parents have been homeschooling for, years and years and years, and they are just professionals at homeschooling and they've got it down, they like what they're doing. And so we don't want to take away from that. We don't want to do something where we're like, well, we're doing something totally different than what you're doing. And so we actually want to benefit those families as well as the families who are maybe coming into homeschooling. They're new to
Mhm.
it, or they maybe are feeling like, I like homeschooling. I really want to keep homeschooling my kids. I don't want to put them in public or private school, but I also feel like I need more. I need more help. And so we want to create a product where it kind of actually helps and benefits both groups and everybody in between.
Yeah.
And so
Both ends of the
that's why we're
spectrum.
kind of, what was that?
Both ends of the spectrum and living in that middle ground too.
Yeah, and so that's why the micro school I think it will be a really great way to do that. Obviously, there's no perfect way of doing it, but this hopefully will be something that could benefit either, whatever group you fall into. So, if you are somebody who maybe you want something that's social, and this is more of like a social thing for you, then you can come and you still will get that social element. Um, and maybe that's something we'll get into more as we go in, like
Yeah.
diving in. What does that look like? But as well as somebody who wants something heavier for their family, something more what's the word I'm looking for? Something a little more than just social. You're getting more academic foundation. We want to
Structure.
be able to provide that too.
Yeah. And so we are making adjustments to the schedule that was originally shown, and what that will look like with the 1 to 2 day option. And so let's go down to the age breakdown, because I think that will help explain some of those things. So, and this was always the vision. And so what I do think is necessary is for us to clarify more of that vision and the distinction between a 1 day and a 2 day micro school. So they're both under the umbrella of micro school, but the idea is the 1 day versus 2 day. And so what we're doing is we're going to realign the schedule to fit the first day. We'll call it day one. We might come up with catchier names. Who knows? But day one, what will look like is it's going to be science, it's going to be art, music, and Bible. And so what effectively will that be is a day that if you just want a little bit of a science experiment structure, that academic portion, and then you want the music and the Bible and the art, that's gonna be day one. Now what this day will allow for is um to allow the families who really have set curriculums already. Like I'm thinking of My Father's World, if you're doing classical conversations, if you're doing other programs that generally have the history and the English kind of already built into what they're doing. What this will allow for is you can still have the science component, which will be fueled by the micro school. That's not going to change. And what it's also going to do is allow for the art and the music and the Bible. Now, one thing I want to bring up, and Heidi, feel free to chime in any moment. Um, we're not changing our programming, and really, to be honest, we're not changing it much even from this year. We're just being outspokenly saying, no, this is the curriculum we're using, and you, to get the most out of it, to grow and to utilize the program, you will need to do some reading at home. We're going to allow for you to track with what we're doing, and especially working out the cycles where with the youngers to the older grade school, you're able to do it all in once. So the science is going to be apologia, the art and the Bible, we're going to have that on another curriculum. So if you're doing the 2 day option, it's going to be, it's the same curriculum, it's the same thing as well. So it's fueled by the same spot. Again, it's there's an element of the families can come in and take advantage of that. And generally, a lot of the time, science is the one subject that is a little bit, science and math is a little bit outside of what a lot of those curriculums kind of bake into their programming. So it'll allow for that to work out well. Heidi, anything to add for that before we elaborate on that more?
Yeah, I think just emphasizing, I think there might be some concern about like homework, or like that
Mhm,
if we do this, like you said, are we going to have to stop doing My Father's World or classical conversations?
mhm.
And the answer, that's a bit of a complicated answer, but it's for the 1 day, you wouldn't if you were doing the 1 day, uh the first day, which is, you said, science, Bible, and art, music, that you would not have to change your curriculum. I would say, other than if you chose to do the science with us, I mean, it could be your science, like, especially because, like you said, Nate, we're choosing apology as science, and we're not gonna come down like with all this homework that you have to do. And especially, I would like to emphasize that our goal is not to burden people with homework, especially
Yeah,
like just filler homework
busy
that has
work.
no purpose other than just, we're going to keep you busy.
So Heidi, what you're saying is we're not going to be burdening them with a bunch of homework then, like busy work homework.
So the goal is definitely not to burden people with homework, or do the whole we're just going to give you lots and lots of things to do at home. The whole thing with homework would be that very directly correlate with what's going to happen in at the co-op day. And
Mhm.
so specifically for science, that would mean reading the text from Apologia that for whatever lesson we're going to be doing. So like for this year, we're doing anatomy, and we're utilizing Apologia. But so like it would be where you'd go home and you'd read the chapter on the brain, and that's what you're supposed to do throughout that week before you come to the co-op class. Maybe there'll be some discussion questions that we could throw out there and have you
To
think
help
about
guide
for the
the
class.
process.
Um,
Yeah.
but and you would also know ahead of time, like this is the project we're going to be doing in class that week.
Mhm.
So maybe if there's anything you want to prepare for that, just because you think that would be fun to do and make it even better. So the whole goal is just to make the class the best we can make it, to where you are actually your kids are coming away actually gaining really a great academic foundation there for science. They're learning a lot in science.
Yeah.
And then also I would say really the only two subjects, unless you're doing the opt-in classes, which again, emphasis on opt-in, the only two classes that would have homework assigned would be science and the history literature combination. So history and literature are going to be combined. They're going to go hand in hand with each other. But it would be science and history combined literature that would have a little bit of homework that you'd have to do throughout the week. The other classes, Bible. So the homework for that would be like we're memorizing this Bible verse, which actually we're doing this year too. That's actually something that we've been trying to emphasize this year and hoping people would want to do that at home. Or learning the songs. We're doing the hymns that we're doing. So like, we just have been learning this "'Tis So
Tis
Sweet to
so
Trust
sweet.
in
Yeah.
Jesus." It's like, well, hey, that if you want to do that at home, that's awesome, because you're going to get more out of that at class when you're singing it.
Yeah.
Art is a similar thing where it's like, we're going to do this art lesson in class like we've been doing this year. But hey, you might not finish. Please go home and finish it, because you're going to get more out of it if you finish the project. But that's about the extent of what we're saying. We're just being more deliberate about
Yeah.
like what we're doing.
And
And
we're also one thing I want to add was we're not adding grades into this. This is not that you're going to get report cards and all that. We're still partnering with the
or
family.
minus opt-in,
The
minus the
opt
opt-in class.
the opt-ins will have there'll be, and that's more to get to the next level. You need to be proficient at that level, and so there's
And there'll
degrees
be
of that.
feedback.
Yeah,
There'll be
exactly,
feedback from the teacher.
exactly. Yeah, but I
But for the
we
yes,
want
but for the core,
we want to take away the
go ahead,
idea.
sorry.
We want to take away the idea that you are, subjecting yourself to the whims of a foreign teacher. And I do want to speak to that in a bit about the teachers, because we are looking to clarify that as well. But yeah, so with the grade school level, we are going to really continue as per normal, but give more structure for the science, pardon me, the literature and the history that a lot of families do desire. And so that element is going to be mostly on the second day, and the first day is going to be front loaded with science and Bible and art and that stuff. Which begs the question, what are we doing for the middle school and high school? I'd like to bring more clarity to that potentially. Are you ready to move to that, Heidi?
Well, one more emphasis on I think also another, or maybe a clarification that needs to be done, is that for this is really talking about upper elementary
Mm-hmm.
to middle school. We're not going to be asking kindergartners to do a bunch of homework. Like for what we're talking about for science and history, it's going to be scaled down to the age levels. So we're really just talking. This is emphasis on upper elementary, middle
Yeah.
school. We want to raise that bar, raise that standard a little bit,
Yeah.
so that we can have even better classes, even better co-op times.
And effectively, and we'll probably touch on this in a minute, what we don't want to do is glorified playtime and babysitting. And I don't think anyone else wants that either. So what we want to do is have, when we're doing something, we want to do it well. And so with that structure, we're going to just increase the element of that, but not by much. I mean, honestly, it's just, we would love to be doing that this year anyways, to get the most out of it. So do the reading, get that understanding, and really and allow for this to be your science, and then you come to the Koga micro school for the lab work in a sense. And so it's really to be done at home but enhanced at the micro school. And so we wanted to continue that with the plan for middle school and high school, because and they're on different tracks. I want to bring more clarity to the middle school. The middle school, we're looking to have it operate in the same time stamp footprint, if you would, as the grade school. And what we're also going to do is make English and math an opt-in for that as well. So those are going to be during that opt-in time. They're going to be more core subjects focused. It's going to be a very similar breakdown for the middle school, with science on the first day and things like that. English and math are going to be opt-ins as well for middle school. So they're going to operate in the same time frame as the grade school. So, same location, same spot, so you can go with your middle schooler. But on the high school front, we are looking to have it a different track. That's going to be subject-based classes versus all-in-one classes with the middle school. So the subject base of high school is going to be more comprehensive, as we are looking to add our grad track in with that, so you can get all your core classes in there and eventually have a diploma program in there. And so those locations will be on a separate site, a different location than the middle school, high school. Now, one thing that we want to clarify is the day breakdown. And so we'll talk about that when we target locations, and we'll bring the high school back into that. But until then, Heidi, do you have anything to add to the middle school, high school breakdown?
Yeah, I think I don't know if it would be helpful to maybe go through just briefly go through even each grade and what that looks like
Mm-hmm.
for the 1 day versus the 2 days. So like
Yeah.
we want to do that, but
Let's do that when we get to when we talk about the locations, because I think that will make it make more sense.
okay.
Okay. So now we'll elaborate more on the high school, middle school. We'll talk about the family center, because we are very actively looking for a family center. And what's the HQ's role? So it's essentially going to be the housing. It's going to be the mothership location for essentially where Kids of Grace Academy does business, and also having somewhat we would call extracurricular activities or even elective locations. So that's where all the electives will live. And that's where our after school activities, we're looking to add more to the table, whether that's day camps for sports, more programs, more elective driven clubs that are just fun art clubs and stuff like that. That's what we're really looking to bring into the family center. But we're also looking to even house special one-off classes that are unique. Now, this is where it gets complicated, where it's not going to be the full tilt school, but we are looking to house a lot of our extracurriculars, if you would, or electives at the family center. That's where the library is going to live. And we're going to work out a system, I think, for next year with the multiple locations where you can go online, reserve a library book, and it can be delivered to your spot, and you can just pick it up and do it that way. But we also want to encourage going to the family center, as it's going to be pretty cool, Lord willing. Um, Anything you want to add to that, Hyde?
Yeah, just I think that the idea for the family center is that, that's where we would hopefully, and we would even grow our elective, like the things that we offer, like you said. But yeah, that's like where choir would probably meet, or
Hmm.
if we continue sewing, that would be where sewing would meet, or
Things like that. Yeah, and there's lots of other
any other
clubs too.
electives that we need to do.
Yeah.
And anything else, I mean, and if anybody also, I would just throw out there, like, if you yourself have some type of specialty that you are really good at, that would be cool for kids to learn. I mean, come, email us, talk to us, because it might be something that we could offer as
Yeah.
an elective.
Yeah. Yeah, and these would all be very much enrichment. Like there would be a few things. It's likely, we can get down to the weeds of it when we get the schedules for what we're looking at, but it's likely just gonna be very much a great hub for families to get some good resources and some fun times. So
Did you
so
want
let
to say that is that where the high school is going to be meeting though? Did you want to
that
mention
that
that?
that's going to be the fallback plan. I would say for a special classes, we're still going to target churches for that as well, which kind of lends itself to the next point. Um, the next slide, if you would. The locations, and so we're targeting church some locations. We're also targeting. Looking to do our business operation, our group gatherings, our large gatherings at churches, and that's simply because the family center can't support uh with zoning rules about schools and whatnot. uh we're not really able to facilitate just yet. Eventually, Lord willing, we could get into a space that we could put everything in and all of that, but right now we're looking to target churches, and these are the areas we're looking to target. And as a side note, if you have any inside connections or friends, or the pastor, or you have a space, and our ideal is churches, but what we're also looking at is, if there's a, large enough space where we can have classroom sizes, multiple versions of that, please, send us a note, introduce us to that friend and get that ball rolling, because we do need your guys' help on that for sure, because otherwise we're just opening up the phone book and calling places. But if we have some inside connections, that would be very appreciated. But yeah, so we're targeting that for the high school. We're probably only going to roll out one location for high school initially, and that's simply just to do things well, because we're looking to get specialty teachers in, and we don't want to spread that one too thin. So we don't want to get, finding multiple algebra 2 teachers might be a bit of a chore to cover multiple locations. So we're probably likely going to land in one spot for the high school, if that makes sense. And then overflow areas would be that family center when that door opens. So we're targeting these three locations. This kind of represents well those who are currently involved. But if that's not to say if we can grab a great building in Wilsonville or Tiger or Tualatin, or one-off building that's not on here, that's we would obviously very much consider that. And what I want to bring up with the locations regarding the one day and all that. So we understand that for a micro school to have 2 days, that's a big ask for a church. And so we know that going into this. So one thing that we are going to look into and roll out is the option, if we can only get one day at a church, to have that one day option be there, so that the science, art, music, and Bible day option, that would be rolled into what we do at if we can get one church. Church can offer one day, much the same way it's happening in Tualatin right now. That's what would dictate the programming, and we'll talk about how that would be managed when we get to the staffing and volunteering part. But those are the three areas that we're targeting for locations, and we have some good leads already. But again, we'd love to get as much help or thought on that as we can. Any thoughts on that before I move to the church's location, logistics, and the criteria we're looking for?
I think yeah, that covers it. Just that's really our goal, or where we're really targeting. But yeah, it's whatever the Lord provides. So
Yeah.
I think you said it perfect.
Yeah. So we've been getting a lot of questions. And one consistent question is, what are you looking for in the churches? And that's a great question. And so I would say there's some deal breakers for sure. And some of those deal breakers revolve around spacing. And so the logistics criteria, the building must be functional, and it must have the amount of classrooms needed. We are offering a daycare component, which is going to fall under what we call the starters category. So that's going to be covered under the same logistics as the preschool. It's not going to be with the preschool, but the same oversight will be overseeing that. So we're going to need a daycare, we're going to need preschool, we're going to need kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then middle school. So we're going to need quite a few classrooms. So the church needs to be equipped with the adequate space to house us, and we have a few other requests that we would ask for, like a gathering space. We'd love to do the assembly still, things like that. So there's some logistical needs. Obviously, the building itself needs to be up to standards. You know, and then as you know from this year, our standards are only looking to increase. um, based off of where we're currently meeting. But the idea also is the spiritual criteria, and that's been brought up a lot. There's concerns, and I understand the concerns. We live in a very progressive, dark time, and we live in a city that tends to encapsulate that time and really looks to, you know, be the the torchbearer for darkness in a lot of ways. So one thing that we are very concerned about is that who we partner with. Before I get into that, I do want to say very clearly that we're going to go into every agreement with the understanding that we are partnering, but not spiritually. We are partnering in the sense of it's going to be a business transaction. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying and saying that we don't care about the spiritual component, but going into it, we're not going to be endorsing everything that every church preaches. But there are a few deal breakers, and the deal breakers are if the church is endorsing things that the Bible calls sin, and one of the most obvious ones is the LGBTQ plus movement. If that church is actively promoting that or accepting that, not calling that sin, then that's going to be a trigger for what would break that deal. And additionally, we are looking for and they're fairly similar in their where we're coming from, that it's a male leadership, meaning that the lead pastor is a guy. So that's another criteria that we're looking for. There's other things that if that could accumulate a reason not to use that church, meaning that there's a lot of baggage or a lot of things. We're not going to publicize that. It just might be quietly killing the deal. But we are looking for that in a church, a like-mindedness. Now, are we going to agree upon all the nuances of doctrine, eschatology, certain things like that? Probably not. But that's not going to be the deal breaker of what would get us into that church. What is essentially, if it goes against what the clear reading of Scripture would say, and in short, that church is not aligning with God's word. So that's what would deter us from going into that. We're going to be fairly selective, and we would if we only roll out 2 locations as a result of that selectivity, then so be it. But we're confident and very hopeful that we can get multiple layers, multiple churches involved. So, anything you'd add to that, Heidi?
No, I think that's great. I guess maybe just the one thing is just that basically we want to align ourselves with churches that would agree with our statement of faith, which our statement of faith can be found on our website. If you're curious about our statement of faith, it's on our website. So, but yeah, we want to be like-minded. And but again, I think what you said is true too, that we're not endorsing a church by using that church for a facility. It is a business agreement, a rental agreement, and that's not an endorsement. We are a totally separate entity, a totally separate business. So I think that's important. I don't know if you wanted to mention one of the other criteria. Did you want to mention the other criteria for that male leadership in the church?
I said that. Yeah, male pastor.
Oh, I
No,
didn't. Maybe I
yeah,
missed it.
yeah. So the male criteria, the male criteria, the criteria that needs to have male leadership. And I think a lot of that is pretty clear in the sense of like who's running the church. I think there's a semantics game being played nowadays, and I think there's some unfortunate choices of words describing certain staff positions, but our main objective is who's running the church. Is it male run leadership, as seen in 1 Timothy 2, clearly in Scripture? So I think that's what we need to look at with that. That's going to be a criteria for us. So Um, so now I want to go to staffing and volunteering, because this is when one of the main questions we've been asked is, what does the teacher means? Was the parent involvement gonna go away? All that. So what we're looking at are we're looking to hire teachers. And before we get into that, what I want to take out of your mind is that that we are just gonna hire a bunch of teachers that no one knows to come and tell your kids what to do and tell you to butt out. That's not what we're doing at all. In fact, right now, currently in our present model, we have teachers. Most of them are just volunteer teachers. What we're looking to do is galvanize that and bring in that role to be a paid position. And here are the benefits from that. From an organizational standpoint, the way it's flowing is that we, and by we I mean Heidi and I, pretty much, and by Heidi and I mean a lot of it Heidi, is is curating what the content of the lesson planning, things like that. And we have some other helpers with this as well. So, but it's mostly it's coming from a very small source flowing down. And what we're seeing are certain balls dropping potentially, and for no one's fault other than the way the system is set up, as far as tailoring the lesson to fit a certain group of kids, a certain age group, or whether that goes, adjusting it up to fit the older kids, or adapting it down for the younger kids. What we're seeing is, it gets complicated because the lesson planning is somewhat coming from one source. Our goal is to bring in people, Lord willing, that are already in the system. That's our goal. um to take what we're doing and take the scope and sequence, take the lesson at hand, and take the subjects at hand and lesson plan them and tailor that for their day, for their class, for the kids that are in their group, if that makes sense. So the idea behind it is that we're not just bringing teachers like a public school where the parents will drop off and check out, but it's going to be very similar to what we're already doing but rather than, and a lot of people don't know that this is what the process is, but rather than the lesson planning coming from on high, from corporate down, the the programming is coming from that, but they take that programming and adapt it to their class. They get the right supplies they need and all of that, and there'd be mechanisms for that within the structure. But the whole point is that the teacher would own it, and that's what we need, is just that ownership, and where the teacher is kind of on staff and going that direction. So they're able to do that. Now, the difference is, and I'll let you speak to that in a second. The difference, if we move to, that's for the 2-day micro school. If we get a location that only has 1-day micro school, that's not going to be run by individual teachers. The classes, that's going to be run by a director who oversees that day. And so if we get a location with just 1 day, let's just hypothetically say Tualatin. If we get 1 day in Tualatin, rather than hiring teachers to run all the classes, we're going to hire one director to manage that day. Now, keep in mind, the single day option with a single location, those we're going to make intentionally smaller than the micro school days. Those are going to be intentionally smaller so that it's going to be more manageable class sizes. And that's the whole point anyways. But that director is then going to curate the volunteers to teach the lessons that the director would have prepared. So the director is essentially going to be a teacher of that whole day, and they're going to delegate out the different categories to volunteers to help cooperatively teach that. That's the distinction. Those are going to be the main staff positions. And the director would delegate to a facilitator who would help. This would be a volunteer position to help, teach that day, and they would be a rotating. That's something that we would work on with the directors, is the best methods for that. Heidi, do you have anything to add to the teacher directive and all that?
Yeah, I think just I would just hope that we're making it clear the distinction between the how some locations will have just 1 day versus what the micro school 2-day model will be, and how there is a big distinction there. I just hope that we're making it clear what that, how they are a little bit different. So, for example, if in Newburgh and Sherwood, we only have a facility for one day, so that means that we would have, and this is more elementary and up, we have science, Bible, art, and music, right? Those are like the three.
So the 1 day option. Yeah.
Yeah, for the 1 day option. So like, this is if we have a facility for 1 day. So that's the 1 day option that there's only 1 day, that you don't have a choice of doing 2 days at Newburgh Sherwood, for example, right?
Yeah.
So that would be the day that has the director, right? Or that location would have a director and then facilitators, right?
Yeah. The director would be taking the lesson plan, doing what the teachers are doing at the 2-day location, and breaking down the lessons for the group.
And then, so that's like, pretend Newburgh Sherwood is only a 1 day micro school. But then you have, let's say, Tigard Beaverton is a 2-day micro school. Can you choose to do 1 day there? Or can you choose to do 1 day, like let's say A day, and then there's B day, A and B. Can you choose to do A but not B?
Yeah, and I would say you can choose that. It depends. Again, we want to give families those options. We're going to prioritize those who want to allow 2 days. We don't want that to we don't want the space on 1 day to fill up so they can't do the other day, because only 1 day is the option. So we're going to allow for the 2-day filling first, and then we'll allow for the single day shots at the 2-day locations. But the 1-day location will be, you can do those on your own, on at real time. So yeah, you can, just as you can do the opt-in, you can do 1 day, you can do, and we have it on the website as the home run, the triple, the double, and the single, and that's still going to hold fast, and all that. So yeah.
But then maybe explain too, like, so let's say the Tigard Beaverton is, again, the 2-day, you have an A, B day. They would have a director still too, right?
Yeah, so there'd be someone that's essentially overseeing all the things, and that's going to be a very high level. That director is not going to be doing the curriculum work as much as they're going to be managing just the logistics of the day, and helping.
And that would have a hired teachers too, right?
Yeah, and helping manage the teachers, helping be the public relations with that location, things like that. So that's gonna be a higher level, than you're not gonna be in the classroom necessarily. There could be overlap. That person could teach a thing, but the idea is that they're gonna be working more on the logistics side on that.
But the teachers at that campus are in charge of their, like, they are coming up with their.
Yes,
we give them curriculum, but they are coming up with their content.
They're curating the lesson plans from the stream, if you would, of the curriculum that's being given. So yeah. So they're not having to dream up, what are we going to talk about today? They're going to have that very plainly in front of them. But what they are going to do is, how am I going to say what we're talking about today? When we're building those model rockets, since I have younger kids, we're going to modify the steps for that to make it a lot more easy for smaller hands or something like that. That's their role is going to be. So.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
did we want to do in this part about, like, kind of what we're looking, like, that we are looking for teachers and directors?
Yeah. So if you are interested, and so this is going to be accompanied with a survey. So please fill out that survey. If you are interested in teaching big or small, greater, or being a director, let us know. If those are skills that you possess. We are not necessarily looking for those with teaching credentials, although that is a nice thing. I think we all know of people that, we've all had teachers with credentials that weren't great teachers, and we all know people that without teaching credentials that are fantastic teachers. So that's not a deal breaker. I think it's a nice perk. It's a nice thing. But what we're looking for is your ability to communicate and take a lesson, break it down, communicate it back to kids at a level that they can understand. We also need team players. So we are all on a team, and we need to make sure we don't have any um, rogue Lone Ranger teachers. So that's something that's important as well. But if you're more administratively minded, and you want to be a director, or you're kind of the best of both worlds, please let us know, and that's going to be a very helpful thing for us. And so you fill out that survey, please put that as a note. With that, I want to move to now the role of parents, because that's been a big point of question, and whether that they can just drop off, or what does helping out look like. Um, but I also want to bring up three options. And so I want to state first, that um, if they are the parent of a preschool, a kindergarten, or a daycare kid, they don't have the option of dropping off. Period. End of story. They must stay on site at all times, and that is for safety. There's legalities and all sorts of things with that. And so the way we're setting up and running this program, it requires families, a family member of a guardian level, to be there at all times. So that is one element. So this, everything I'm now going to say, those do not count in that. So what I am saying now is for uh, first grade up. Legally, it could be kindergarten up, and we can make exceptions if we need to, but we're going to largely lead with first grade up through high school. And that is, we're going to provide three options for families. Now, before I say those three options, I want to be very clear that the heart is, we want you in the driver's seat. That is our motto: parents, family in the driver's seat of their kids' education. And so we want you involved. So that is no question. We don't want that to be questioned or doubted at all. We want you to be involved. But with that said, we understand schedules, and we understand that even having all the bodies in the room at one time, it gets crowded, and we don't need that many cooks in the kitchen all the time. So I understand there's a logistics issue that we have to work on. So we're going to provide three options. The first option is a drop-off option, and what that will look like is you are going to pay slightly more to drop your kid off. You have to pick them up on time, but you're going to pay more to drop off. The second option is, we're going to call it the 60-hour option. And over the course of the school year, the academic year, which is 30 weeks per our programming, you're going to have 60 hours of required volunteer time, which averages out to 2 hours a week. And so, whereas you don't have to be there the whole time, you can either make that an hour a day, 2 hours on one day, or whatever. So that might be a nice little perk where you still need to get your volunteer hours in, and you'll pay a difference than the full drop off, less obviously, but you'll be able to, like, maybe run to Costco or do what you need to do for those hours, but you need to fulfill those hours. And the third option would then be, and this would be the cheaper of the three, where you are not dropping off at all. You're there the whole time, and you're essentially required to be there all the time. Now, before I go further, if we do a single day location, there is no drop off there either. So you have to be there all the time with the single location. That's going to be a requirement there. If you are at that single location, you must be there at all times. So, does that make sense, Heidi, what I just said?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, maybe if you just kind of did a quick breakdown real fast of, like, so if you're in daycare, preschool, and did you say kindergarten? You want to
Yeah.
clarify?
And that's because they're in the same
Yeah.
program bucket.
So no matter what, you have to be there for preschool or daycare, preschool, kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
If it's at the 2-day micro school, you can drop off at, is it first grade?
First grade through
First grade,
8th grade. Yeah.
8th grade, you can drop off, and obviously high school. And then if you're at the 1-day micro school location, you have to be there.
Yeah. So, and then, yeah, and then on the 2-day, you'll also have the option to do the 60-hour option or stay there the whole time option. So,
yeah, that's good.
So, anything else, Hyde, before we break?
Well, I know we've been going a long time, but I kind of did feel like it might be helpful to slightly break down the grades. I just do think that that might be
Okay.
helpful, but do you
Yeah,
think so?
no, that's easy. So, and this will be on the website. We'll have, um, we have daycare, preschool, which generally starts at 3. Um,
And then kind of like, what's the programming for preschool?
yeah, so we have, let's break this down. So we have daycare, preschool, which generally starts at 3. We'll have junior kinder, which is largely 4-year-olds, and then kindergarten, which is 5 plus till you get to first grade. That's gonna be our starter program. What the starter program is, and this will be broken down. This will be definitely a we want to allow for families to still insert what they want, but we are going to be pretty open about our programming. We're going to be talking letters, verse memorization, things like that. And so we're
Numbers.
working on numbers, things like that. We're not looking to necessarily be a comprehensive educational system for but we're definitely going to be helping the kid out. Again, it's hard to learn to read on only 2 days of schooling, but we're looking to definitely help with that process. There's gonna be a little bit of a like a civics thing. What do people do all day? Um, things like
Well,
that.
we did that this year, yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's gonna look a lot like what we are doing, only if you're doing the 2-day, you're gonna be doing even more, of what and I think it's gonna be a really great, actually, preschool
Yeah,
program.
I agree. Um,
Um,
if we do say so ourselves. But so that's going to be preschool, and we're calling that the starters. The second one's called primary, and the primary is going to run 1st through 6th, and the class breakdown will be 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 1st, 2nd. There will be no opt-in class options. We can give suggestions. We can give some tutorage if that's tutoring if needed. But the main idea is that the opt-ins will start at 3rd grade, and what that will look like is you will choose to do that at the end of the regular program day with the last classes offered. And so 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and the I don't want to say intensity, but the rigorousness of it will escalate. So what's expected of them, um, or the complicate the how things are presented will be more done at an age level that's more rigorous than say at the 1st grade. So we are looking to match the ages, yeah, and break down the ages in a way that we're able to do that. Because right now having the K and the 1 together, when half the group can read, half of them can't, it gets really complicated. So what we're looking to do is really tighten up that and allow for the teachers to teach to a level that everyone can understand and grow. And then the 7th grade is going to have its own class with one teacher that's going to teach all the subjects, and 8th grade is going to have one class with one teacher that's going to teach all the subjects. So as you can imagine, that's going to be a teacher that's fairly that's has to be fairly capable. But I know that person does exist. Hopefully, they can exist multiple times. But the idea is that they're gonna curate that lesson, and then at the end, like I said before, English and math will be opt-in days as well. And so that's the classroom breakdown. Those are by grade. By subject is when we get to high school, where it's going to be, biology is going to be its own class, algebra 2 is going to be its own class, things like that. And there's going to be different teachers per class, and that's going to consist of the grad track. One thing that we did not talk about is with the 1-day option, what we're looking to do with the middle school and high school. Maybe we could speak to that for a minute before we break here. And what that will look like is the middle school and the high school. So what we're not going to do is run like we're doing this year, simultaneous programming for the 1-day option. What we are going to do is take we're calling it right now it's the rooted Bible intensive, and we're going to put that as the main objective. And what that's going to look like, it's a program that we're putting together that I'm really passionate and excited about, and that's going to be an apologetics, logic, and a theology intensive that is really going to equip young people to withstand the worldviews of this world, and to know and be rooted and grounded in the word, in right thinking, how to think rightly. And so we're going to be taking really good curriculums, and we're going to kind of make this intensive that's going to be what is going to happen. And my goal, and I would love for this, is that uh Kids of Grace Academy for our older kiddos would in some ways take the place of that gap year Bible seminar college thing, and just allow for them to really get anchored and rooted in the word and the Lord, and know how to walk with him. So and to know the why and be able to intake bad ideas and chew the meat, spit out the bones of our culture. And so love that. I'm really excited for that. But that's going to be what's offered. We are going to put some criteria around that, and that will be noted in emails and on the website. But for the 1 day option, that is also going to be part of the programming for the 2 day option as well. But what I'm saying is we're not going to be doing like math, science, and all that for middle school, because at that point they need to be um, part of the regular curriculum for math, science, and all that, and those are very grade specific. So we're gonna kind of do a secondary option where they are breaking down the rooted intensive thing program that's going to be a really I think a rich program and beneficial for kids. So any other closing words, Heidi?
Well, I think maybe just if you could summarize what you just said a little bit, because I think what you said was
Sure.
really good, but like I could see how somebody could be like, so wait, what? Like there's the micro school that's 2 days, and then there's the micro school that's 1 day.
Yeah.
How does so the micro school that's 2 days, there's a middle doing all the subjects, right?
So you cut out for 1 second there. Can you say that again?
So for the 2 day micro school, if you're attending the 2 day micro school, then there are all of the core subjects for middle school, right?
Correct. All the core subjects for middle school. Yes.
But if you are just attending a campus facility that is offering the 1 day only,
Mm-hmm.
then you are going to only have the option for your middle schooler at that campus to do the rooted, what'd you call it again?
Rooted
sorry,
Bible
what was it?
Intensive. Rooted Bible Intensive. So
Rooted Bible Intensive. I like
yeah,
that name, but yeah, like so that's what is offered for the 1 day middle school and high school, right? Like
yeah,
it's kind of a combined.
and we're probably looking to only go to about sophomore year.
Mhm.
At that point, we have some other thoughts for our juniors and seniors, but yeah,
I mean, did you want in that like the intern thing?
yeah. Why don't you go for that? Yeah, why don't you explain that?
Just like that, if you do have a high schooler, particularly like an older high schooler, 16, 17, and they would like to intern with Kids of Grace, that could be in the role of a teacher's assistant, or possibly just like work helping out our facilities in different ways. But I would say particularly teacher assistant. We are planning on to kind of open up an internship. And if you're interested in that, feel free to email us. We'll probably have more information about
Yeah,
that coming out. But also, if you do have a high schooler interested, maybe reach out to us as well. And that's more like if you don't want them necessarily, if you have a high schooler and you're doing the 1 day, or I mean, it might be even if you're doing the other micro school and
yeah,
the high school times are offsetting from their
yeah.
times.
We're flexible with that.
Yeah.
We'll release more information on that. That's something that we are in the works of putting together. But ideally, that's for the 16-year-old plus person.
Yeah.
Um,
Probably can drive. Like
yeah. So
yeah.
the we're calling it secondary for the single day option. That is, it's going to be pretty much seventh grade through sophomore year. If you have a kiddo that's only there for the 1 day, campus option, then that's what's going to be provided for them. So
Yeah. So like for the 1 day option, the campuses that only have 1 day, it's going to look kind of similar to what we're doing already this year, but with a little bit higher standard on on the educational part of it, right? But
yeah,
it's going to look it's just going to be like preschool's going to be doing their 1 day, like kind of like what they're doing this year. Kindergarten is going to be separated with that, which that is different. Kindergarten separate from first grade, and then first and second, right, are together, and then third and fourth together, fifth and sixth together, and they're doing the what you talked about earlier, the science, Bible, art and music, right? And then
Right.
middle school is doing the rooted to intensive, right?
Yeah.
Bible
Rooted
intensive.
Bible intensive. Yep. So
Just
that's the
wanted to,
one.
that's really clear.
Yeah, and that's the 1 day option. And again, whatever fits your family the best. So again, that's for the single campuses. If you want to only do 1 day at our micro school with 2 day options, again, they're gonna that rooted Bible intensive is going to be not. It's going to be part of the regular programming, and as well as long as the other core classes. So factor that in to your decision making. But otherwise, you're going to have the same options for everything else. I will say that if you are at the single campus, there are no opt-ins. I just want to reiterate that. So there will be no opt-in classes at the single campuses. So if the 1 day campuses, so if that's important to you, target one with 2 days. So
Yeah. And
and
then
we
the
will.
2
What was that?
And then the 2 day, let's say you're a family that does want to do the 2 day, you're doing for elementary. Well, for preschool, you're just kind of doing 2 days of preschool learning,
Mm-hmm.
similar to what we're doing. And say all the way up to kindergarten, that's how that will be. First and second grade, you're doing a little more academic. It's similar. You're doing the science, Bible, art, and then on the second day, you're doing history, literature, and the life skills, right? So
Yeah.
that's the 2 days for first grade and up,
Yep.
scaled down to the ages, right?
Correct. Yes.
Middle school, can you explain really quick, middle school, what would the 2 days look like for middle school?
Yeah,
Just
it's gonna
really
look
quick.
very similar. It's gonna be effectively. It's gonna be a very similar breakdown. We're also gonna add World Watch current events to all those days as well. We do think that that's a really cool feature that we want to take advantage of. So we're gonna add World Watch at the very beginning, which is a really cool Christian program that talks about what's going on in our world and has a biblical worldview attached to that. So that's really cool. It's not all the bad news either. Some good news involved. Um, but the idea too is with the
Mhm.
it's gonna be the middle school is gonna have the science on day one, and history and on day two, and literature on day two, and the breakdown is gonna be very similar as the grade school. It's not going to have some of the same things. It won't have the same life skills programming, and it's not going to have the art and music, because at that point we're going to be promoting our choir and things like that. So we're going to be adjusting that a little bit, but it's going to look very similar. So, and they're going to be longer time periods as well. So whereas the grade school is going to be shorter time periods for the classroom, the so the grade school look like the middle school will look like it's doing less things. It's actually going to do it longer, if that makes sense, because
Yeah.
we're going to be getting through curriculum and stuff like that
And then high school is meeting so if it's the 1 day, high school they have the option of meeting
through
in the
sophomore year. Yeah, with the 1 day.
but with the 2 day, if they're doing the 2 day if they're doing their own micro school, that's meeting on a separate.
Yeah, so if they're going to do our grad track, or if they want to just take a la carte classes, that's still an option. Those are going to be on a separate track,
Yeah.
a different day. It's going to be a separate timestamp than the um starters, middle school, and grade school micro school.
Good. Cool.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to our broadcast. Hopefully we clarified things for you. And if we didn't, please send us an email. We'd love to answer it. You can respond actually to the email that you got this from, and that should get you right to where we need to be. I'm Nate at kidsofgrace.com, and she's Heidi at kidsofgrace.com. We'd love to answer you if it's just a general inquiry. Academy at kidsofgrace.com. Would love to answer and clarify anything further for you. Check out our website. We put a lot of details on that as well. And we're going to be updating that periodically. We'll be announcing when all this will officially take place. Fill out the survey that's attached to the email that we're sending this video from. And until all this works together, we hope and pray that the Lord guides and leads you, and that you guys walk with him, and we will see you guys later.